Check 1, 2. right.
What caucus is that? What caucus means?
You guys ready?
Yes, sir.
It's a great day in Kershaw County, a great day in this All-America County. How many Marines do we have in the room today? One. Happy birthday, Marine. How many people do we have in here that love Marines? Everybody. Happy birthday to the Marines. And tomorrow we celebrate Veterans Day. We have our American Legion here in VFW and a whole room full of veterans that are here to celebrate a great event, and we'll hear more about that in a few seconds. We just completed the national election. I want to congratulate you all for your participation at numbers unseen before in Kershaw County, and also well done by our election registrar office, and we need to thank all our poll workers and everybody that contributed. We should congratulate also those who won and those who lost for stepping up. Even in losing, they showed a great leadership by wanting to serve us in this county. But particularly, we congratulate Mr. Brazel, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Connell, Mr. Dabney, and Mrs. Gustafson for a great run. Now, in spite of all that victory and excitement, COVID continues and tells us authoritatively that the election did not end the threat. And I'm sad to say we lost 4 people since the election to that terrible disease. And I want to ask you now to join me in a moment of silence. Amen, brothers and sisters. We are now called to order. We have a quorum present. I remind you all that we are in a e-meeting format. 6 feet distance, masks, and all that sort of thing. And there are certain other protocols I'll talk about in a little bit. But with that, I want you to rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Mr. Tucker.
Let us pray. God, Father Almighty, once again we come to you as humbly as we know how, asking for your grace and your mercy. We ask, Lord Father, now that you bless the minds and the hearts and stuff in deliberating the business of Kershaw County citizens, that we be able to agree and to disagree, but come to good conclusions to do the work for the people of Kershaw County. Now bless every citizen that's here and every citizen in Kershaw County, and give them the patience to help strengthen us, support us, and guide us throughout the remainder of this year and throughout this COVID virus that we're experiencing. Now, Lord Father, we ask these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's a great start, Mr. Tucker. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we go back to one thing I told you about, which is the e-meeting format for public comments. Mary, do we have any write-ins?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. We can then go to the normal format with public comments. Mr. DeBose, do the honors, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, one person signed up, Tom Webb III.
All right, Mr. Webb, please, sir. Thank you for wearing the uniform of our armed forces.
Thank you.
And you know the rules here of about 5 minutes, and keep the items respectful and on target, and there will be no questions and answers. Mr. Webb, over to you.
All right, this is going to start out about Veterans Day. That's tomorrow. And their lives for your freedom. And why would they give their lives for our freedom? I hope it's not just so we can give it away, which appears to me we've been doing little by little over the years. We let it slip away. But eventually we may be losing it all in one big gulp. There's really something I keep hearing out of Canada. Rumors, I suppose, that they're saying where there's smoke, there's fire. I keep hearing it from different sources that they are actually playing with the idea of all-out communism. They're suggesting that people should turn in all of their private property, all of their bank accounts, just give all of that up, and all debts will be canceled, and the government will take care of everybody, probably very minimally. if that can't happen on our border. During the Vietnam War, there was something called the domino theory. I believed in it, where one country after another fell to the communists. And so we had to go to Vietnam. It was going to fall too. And it sort of did, but we put a stop to it in a way. It was so expensive for them and us that the spread of communism at least stopped for a while. But now it looks like it's right on our border, perhaps, with Canada. Certainly there are people inside of our own country who are claiming to be communists now. Terrible shame. So why face war and death? And some people would think it's for mom's apple pie. That used to be the saying, you know. We go off to war to protect American things, but it's really, I think it's about property rights. Mine is mine and yours is yours and not much in between. So we may face something very bad very soon, and it's hard to know what's coming. We didn't see this virus coming. I stood before you before the virus, and I shook a bottle of beans at you and said we needed to put aside a little bit of something because things could get rough. And they did. The store shelves nearly emptied out for a while. Beans are cheap now. They may be expensive later. So get your rice and beans. And I wish that somebody on county council would inform the people, that would come up with a resolution of some sort to encourage people to put aside some food. Otherwise, we're going to be in awful trouble if things really go bad the way they can from so many different directions. And then about the mask and these ordinances that claim that we should be wearing a mask. I'm sure that it does some good if you're going to see grandma, but there are ways to treat this, and zinc is my favorite. I think it works to keep people out of the hospital. Somebody is suppressing it. It's really hard to find any zinc on the shelves anymore. But I've observed people wearing their masks, and what they do, they talk and they get so uncomfortable, they handle their mask, and then they touch doorknobs and all kinds of things. It's supposed to sanitize their hands, but they don't do it. In my opinion, the mask, wearing the mask is probably spreading it more than it's retarding it. So that's enough of that, but I do have a poem that I'd like to read. Has a little something in it about patriotism, something I finished up recently. It's called Castle, If You Please, Castle, If You Don't Please. There's a castle I call home with castle grounds all around and everything I own. But there's no bridge and moat as yet, just a homemade garden gate to open up to what I like and close to what I hate. And who can blame us for the fence against some nibbling, nosy habits and the shotgun leaning by the door for more than little rabbits? Consider then how castle walls are made of freedoms fit so well. They're anchored in this sacred soil where patriots fought and fell. The duty now must pass to us to practice being free, to be a glowing candle for someone else to see. Beware you then of tyrant's claws, some overbearing, scheming cause this jaded world begat, for heavy hands breed heavy hands, and there's too much of that. Then stand upon this cornerstone our moral laws are written on, where mine is mine and yours is yours and not much in between, for it makes your home a castle and you the king and queen. As for me, the way we live is ours to love, in a humble place we're so fond of, our castle, if you please, nestled in the trees. But it should be more of this, a church without a steeple, with a warning to the people how they're caught up in a spell of legal codes and stepping stones taking them to hell. They've found no beauty in liberty and hate its casual look, and respect nobody's property or the sacred holy book. There are angels, though, out there for us, our neighbors on the right, but on the left they're more like witches filling up on spite. So please be ever watchful of the rude and really wrathful. They'll fill the laws with wicked flaws, but ours alone is ours to own, and a shack is still a castle, the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. And Mr. DeBose?
That concludes the sign-up list.
And that concludes the public comments, and there are no e-comments. So we move to adoption of the agenda. We will have an executive session, a very short one tonight. So I look for a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, quickly to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Very good, and Mary has recorded that as unanimous. seeing that we're still under e-rules and emergency guidance because of COVID, I looked at our room is pretty well filled up, and in order to clean it out, I'm going to ask the chairman's prerogative to move the proclamation up for Miss Barbara Ray so you and your family can leave without any further exposure. So with that,
They all family.
yeah. I'm talking about exposure to Mr. Tucker. But we're delighted you're all here with the VFW and the American Legion. What a wonderful way to anticipate, thanks to Mr. Bozard, the advent of Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday. So with that, I'm going to read the resolution. If the gentleman will turn to page 4 in your electronics, you'll see the resolution. It's also up on the screen. Let me bring it over. And thanks to the penmanship of Mr. Bozard, a resolution recognizing Mrs. Barbara Ray. Whereas Kershaw County is proud of its armed forces and the families, too, of those who served, and welcome, celebrate, and render assistance and benefits and first-class care for nearly 8,000 veterans who call Kershaw County home. And whereas Mrs. Barbara Ray has served our veterans with distinction and passion for over 30 years, and where she began working for Kershaw County in the VA in June of 1990, when it was first located in the courthouse, and after Mr. Bell's retirement, Mrs. Ray became the VA officer in January of 2012, and whereas Mrs. Ray epitomizes all-American patriotism and all-American devotion in serving the veterans and citizens of Kershaw County with dedication, cheerfulness, that's for sure, a positive outlook, and a willingness to go the extra mile, whereas she prioritizes the resources provided her in such a way that thousands of our veterans receive unsurpassed level of support. Whereas Mrs. Ray treats each and every visitor to her office as special and always refers to them as my veterans. One of her veterans writes, "You are one of the kindest and sweetest ladies I've ever met. There's an aura that emits a sincere richness of your Southern character." She refers to them as my veterans, as I've said, and whereas her skills in focusing on the needs of each veteran brings to bear the county council, the state and federal delegations, and the staffers assigned to work with her as to ensure that every level of government and every agency quickly and thoroughly provides immediate resolution to their needs. Whereas Mrs. Ray has been recognized countywide by the American Legion and the VFW, and she was awarded Veterans Affairs Officer of the Year in 2016. She has been exemplar as a public servant and friend to soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard, the torchbearer for our veterans, and an outstanding citizen of the Kershaw County community. Amen so far. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved in a meeting duly assembled that Kershaw County Council hereby recognizes and honors Mrs. Barbara Ray for her public service to County Council, to Kershaw County, and to its veterans. With that, Mr. Bozard, would you make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion, we vote on this wholeheartedly.
And a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. Thank you. Another veteran. And with that, any discussion? Mr. Bozard.
Thank you. He gave me the credit for this writing, but this went on to a whole lot of different people. Miss Holly right there, she gave me a lot of it, a lot of different ones, and I can't take the credit for that. That's way over my head anyway, because I couldn't come up with all that stuff. But anyway, the first time I met Barbara, she was in this little building back over here behind the health department. I went in there and I asked for Mrs. Ray, and that guy that was in there with her says she'll be right out in just a minute. So Barbara walked out, and I looked at her and I said, this must be the daughter of the man in charge. I said, she's too young to be running this office. I found out just a little bit when she made me come to attention and talk to me with authority. I realized who Barbara Ray was. I can't remember how many years ago that was, probably over 20, 25, 20 at least. And since then, I found out who Barbara was. And he, last part of that thing says, my veterans, and that's the way it is with her. They're my veterans. She does whatever she can for them, and we deeply appreciate that. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Jones is second.
Yes. Let me just say that, Barbara Ray, I appreciate everything you do. I certainly do it. And I love your husband, Larry Ray, sitting there. What a fine man. And Rusty, I see your brother over there, Rusty, probably the most gifted musician in Kershaw County. Sure. And her beautiful daughters and the rest of her family. Let me just say that Barbara and I go back probably to DuPont Boulevard days. I think she babysat me one time, said I was the sweetest child she ever babysat. And, well, that's what I thought. Anyway, she never verified that, though. But you know, you're right, Chairman Councilman Bozar. She is there for every single veteran, and they are her veterans. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your friendship, your wonderful family's friendship. And I just want to say God bless y'all. And Larry Ray, God bless you, my brother. I got y'all in my prayers. Love you to death. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Tucker, another veteran, please.
Miss Ray, I'm over here. I know you can't see me because the computer's blocking me, but and they want to say this because I'm short too, but it's okay. I want to say thanks as well and ditto on what has been said, but I want to thank you for your love and passion for people, because what some may not realize is that you only not serve the veterans here in Kershaw County, but you have a lot of people come from out of the county that you serve as well, and you turn no one away. Every veteran, every person, lady, man, boy, girl that has served this country, you see as your veteran and you take care of them. And that's just the love that God has put in your heart, to love people and to do whatever you can for them. And I say thank you for that passion and that drive that's in you. And I love you as well and wish you many more years to go. I know family would probably want you home soon, but whatever you can spare us, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Other comment? Mr. Connell.
Mr. Chairman, I couldn't help but think as I'm sitting here that we've been favored recently with great examples of consistency in service over long periods of time. We just recently were able to honor Chief Brown in Elgin. What a great example. And here tonight we have Miss Ray. You know, I think back over the last 4 years, and you get calls with complaints from time to time about issues that need to be taken care of. I've never received a call complaining about anything in the Veterans Office, and actually, it's always been compliments and positive remarks. So I appreciate your consistency in service for those folks that need you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
Ms. Ray, thank you so much for being a great example, for loving the citizens of Kershaw County, for allowing the love of the Lord that's in your heart to shine through, because I know that's the foundation of your life. So because of you, we are better. Thank you so much.
Mr. Gardner.
I think everybody summed it up, but just thank you for your service, and we would certainly love for you to stay around as long as you like. Thank you.
You know, right?
Yeah, I've got Mr. Bozard.
One last thing. I know you got 30 years in, but don't think about retiring. These guys out there still need you. Thank you.
Well, I got a family full of veterans, but we also have the VFW and the American Legion here, and the Marine Corps on their birthday. And I tell you, whenever there's a problem with support to Miss Ray, I hear it from them before I hear it from you, ma'am. And they love you, and they know very, very much your best advertisement is the men and women you care for. And there could be no higher praise than that. So with that, I'm ready to move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous. And with that, I'd like Ms. Ray to bring her family up here. And ma'am, do you want Ms. Holly up here? Do you want the VFW and the American Legion? Come on up, young men. All the veterans, come on down here.
her family, come on down.
Yeah, of course we want the
Brother,
family.
daughters,
Where's the
all of you.
family?
I'm gonna stand
Barbara,
in the
let's
chair
get
and
the
give them
family
a-
in here too, okay?
Sam, you need a ladder.
Right, I'm gonna stand on the table. You think so? Well, come on. I got you. Won't look as bad.
Yeah.
Won't look like Spurs.
Mommy stooped down a little bit.
Many of them here.
In the back, tall guy. Your shoulders, so that you turn around.
All right, Danny, do the magic.
Yeah.
How about the family? Everybody got a picture?
Not with the mask on, that's right.
Everybody smile. All right, let's have a round of applause.
Love you. Well, look here, well-deserved and overdue.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Something this bad? I saw him. He's over in the corner now.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bose, you can take your seat, sir.
Boy, you know how to clean a crowd out.
Yeah, I can sure clean a room out, can I?
That was smart. That was smart. Good move. Yeah.
All right, let's return to our agenda as published and agreed with a public hearing regarding an ordinance setting the millage rate for Kershaw County to begin to send out the tax notices here in about the next day or two. So with that, let me open the public hearing. And seeing no one is coming forward, I will close it. And we move to public presentation. Mr. Carpenter, can you open that item, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, we have tonight a presentation of the annual audit for Kershaw County is presented by Mr. Mark Wood of Shaheen, Hancock, and Godwin.
Thank you. Mark, come on up. Good to see you, sir. And can we take questions and so on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's try to apportion 15 minutes, but if we need more time, we will. And questions and answers are welcome in this part. Please, go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight to discuss the audit for 6/30/20. Everybody should have this one-page summary. That's what we're going to be going through tonight. Start off with, to let you know that the county once again received an unmodified opinion on the audit for 6/30/2020, which is the highest opinion we can give on a set of financial statements. So congratulations for that. 1 and 2, I mean, most of you all have been through this presentation several times. I don't think there's any sense to discuss it. It just kind of gives you an outline of the audit report and talks about the different types of funds. So let's skip down to 3, and I'll run through the general fund. I'll go through 3, 4, and 5, and then I'll come back to the proprietary funds, and then we'll talk about some budget issues. So the general fund, the total assets and deferred outflows were $28 million. Total liabilities and deferred inflows were almost $17 million. So your fund balance for the general fund, it is a little over $11 million. You can see in 4 how that's broken down between non-spendable, restricted, committed, and then your unassigned your unassigned fund balance is almost $7.3 million. Total revenues were almost $26 million. Your expenditures were almost $24,700,000. And then you had transfers and some other financing sources. So your positive change in fund balance as of 6/30/20 was almost $800,000. That's pretty good considering the issues that were going on in this fiscal year. To have any kind of a positive change that you add to your fund balance is phenomenal. So you're to be commended for that. Proprietary funds, this is a combination of EMS and sewer combined. So $28.7 million is the assets and deferred outflows. Your liabilities and deferred inflows were almost $10 million, so your net position or equity is $18.7 million. And that's broken down between invested and capital assets of about $16 million, restricted of $700,000, and your unrestricted net position is a little over $2 million in those funds. Total revenues are $8.3 million, expenditures are about $7.1, and then you had some other transfers and other financing sources, so your positive change in net position for those two funds was almost $1.7 million. If you go down to 6 and 7, talk about the budget. This is for the general fund, so revenues exceeded budget amounts by about $836,000. The expenditures were under budget by about $657,000, and transfers were under budget as well of $705,000. So you can see revenues came in better than budget, and we were able to hold expenditures down under budget. So that's where the positive change in fund balance came in at. I know y'all kind of like to know these numbers, but the pension liability that the county is responsible for as of 6/30/20 was $33.5 million. That's about a decrease of about $500,000 over 2019. And your OPEB liability, which is your post-employee benefit plan, that liability is almost
Say that again, please.
The OPEB, so it's the
Yes.
post-employment health insurance,
Yes.
is $7.7 million, which is an increase of about $1 million over 2019. There are no findings, once again, in this report. I think the county should be very pleased with this audit report. I think it shows that the county is in a healthy position. And with that, I'll open it up if anybody's got any questions.
I'll start off by saying that this is a very conservative administrator in a very tight year. And to show this kind of performance with the uncertainty that were presented to us in this COVID year is, I think, amazing and commendable. Gentlemen, any comments? Yes, please.
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Brown and her help there, Ms. Pam, and all of the staff, Mr. Carpenter as well, for just being on top of this because, of course, this is waters we've never charted. And I pray to my God that I'll never see again in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I hope it's 200 years, not 100 years for the next folks that's on earth to see it. And I thank our audit staff because y'all work well with our financial staff. And that makes this part of our duties a lot easier. And then we have great outcomes like this. Thank you.
All right. Other comments?
Just very quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Jones,
Mark,
right
I'd just
ahead.
like to say, appreciate what you've done over the years. Sammy and I have been through quite a few of these with you, and all of them hadn't been quite as good as this, but you've always been accessible when I've had questions and concerns if I came by your office, and I just want you to know I appreciate that very much, and good job to staff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Council.
Other comments? I want to say also on behalf of your firm, our condolences again for the young man whose picture's on the wall to your right rear, Mr. Austin Shaheen. And I know it was a grievous shock to your firm when we lost him, it was as much as so was for the county and the family. Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Connell.
Thanks for being here tonight. I just wanted to say that it's a real credit to Mr. Carpenter and the staff that they were able to manage costs that well, that we had an $800,000 positive result in that fund in the middle of also giving, well, at least setting aside and budgeting about $1 million in grants to local businesses to get through and absorb the worst of the brunt of COVID. That's a testament to conservative policy, which was set aside some for a rainy day to either help local businesses or take care of other emergencies. And I believe we voted on that, a number of years ago, where you could never foresee something like this. But here it's proved useful. So thank you for sharing that report.
Other comments? Let me just also say, this does not include the money that Mr. Carpenter put forward under the CARES Act, which is the money that was provided by the federal government to local and state governments, and that has not been distributed yet. Is that correct, Mr. Carpenter?
A very small amount has been received through the FEMA side, but the majority which you're referring to, which is coming from the governor's office, has not been received. Yes, sir.
And you all remember that under the Emergency Act, which we're going to reapprove here shortly, Mr. Carpenter had to take, I don't know if it's draconian, but conservative measures to make sure that we didn't run over an operating budget by hiring and other things of that nature. And that's how you run a business, and that's how you run a local government, where we can't print money and we have to finish in the black. So I think it's fair to say we have constricted ourselves still until we have a little more definition. Is that right, Mr. Carpenter?
We're still keeping a close eye on spending, yes, sir.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. But this term ends in June, so the balances shown here would change to the present day, of course. So it still requires that Sandra and Vic do their exceptional work. You were going to say something?
Yeah,
Mark?
I just want to mention in closing, your finance director, Sandra, wrote this audit report that y'all have in front of y'all once again. And I would just like to thank her for her hard work and the staff. We came in for about a week and a half, and we kind of put them through the ringer. We asked a bunch of questions and demand a lot of information, and they're very responsive to getting us what we need, which helps us get our job done and get out of here. So I'd like to thank them personally just for all their hard work.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Very quickly, talking about running through the ringer, I remember when I was a department head, y'all put me through the ringer on these audits. I don't miss that at all.
Mr. Tucker, one more.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm just planting a seed because January is around the corner, and I'm going to start off with Mr. Carpenter, but I want my colleagues to hear me. That's not done from 8:30 to 5, what Ms. Sandra does, Ms. Brown. I don't know how many of y'all roam, but I roam a lot early in the mornings, late at night, and you can come up here and you can find her, and she's working in that office trying to make sure that the numbers are right and that she has good information to give us. So when you hear Mr. Carpenter and myself, because I'm going to be aggravating him, saying that we need a little help in that department, don't frown up and turn your head and act like you didn't hear me. There's a lot goes on, and we get these results because people work tirelessly, very hard to make sure that this county is very physically responsible.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I spoke with Sandra and several staff on Saturdays, and even had some calls with Sarah Williams about fixed assets even on Sunday. So the days that I was down at my office working, your staff was also working too. So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I just may, since everyone else is saying the great things, I just want to assure you that Ms. Brown and her staff are beyond amazing. I tell you time and again how fortunate this county is to have them as representatives and stewards of your money. And this report is a testimony to Ms. Brown. It's a testimony to Pam, to the entire staff. And we are blessed to have them with us.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, again. Well, Mark, thank you. Can I have my usual visit over there? And I want to go through a couple of lines in detail.
anytime, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I'm always open to any members of council. If y'all ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
And,
All right, thank y'all. Have a good night.
Well done. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the next item. We've already gone through the first resolution. Item number 2 under the resolutions under tab B at page 5, and also up on your screen, thank you, Pam, is a resolution in support of prescribed fire that Mr. Bozard had helpfully brought in. I'm going to read it, and then we'll go through the motions. Whereas Kershaw County Council recognizes that prescribed fire provides you multiple ecological, economic, and cultural benefits to the citizens of Kershaw County, and whereas prescribed fire is a traditional land management practice and public safety tool that helps prevent and lessen the severity of wildfires, reducing the loss of private property, and saving the lives of our citizens while acting as a preventive measure, saving taxpayers the costs and hazards to local government, public safety, and firefighting officials who respond to wildfires. Whereas prescribed fire is a valuable tool used by forest landowners and managers in reducing hazardous fuels, reducing the risk of destructive wildfires, preparing sites for both natural and artificial forest regeneration, improving access to and the appearance of land, and controlling detrimental insects and disease. And whereas prescribed fire is used to restore and maintain fire-dependent ecosystems and to manage wildlife habitat for many species, and whereas many rural economies depend on prescribed fire, and whereas prescribed fire is used to manage songbirds and other non-game wildlife species and for fire-dependent plants, and is a vital tool to maintain aesthetically pleasing landscapes, whereas the South Carolina Forestry Commission is authorized by various South Carolina state laws to control wildfires, and whereas the South Carolina General Assembly passed the Prescribed Fire Act of 1994, and whereas prescribed fire helps South Carolina's forests remain healthy, and those forests in turn provide ecological services such as clean air, clean water, and contribute to the quality of life in the state, citizens, and local economies. And whereas prescribed fire practitioners provide public health benefits by burning under carefully planned weather conditions, reducing unplanned smoke from wildfires, and thus contributing to air quality. And whereas prescribed fire is a traditional land management tool in the South that has practiced for thousands of years and is an integral part of South Carolina's cultural and natural heritage. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Kershaw County Council supports the appropriate and continued use of prescribed fire in South Carolina, and be it further resolved that the Kershaw County Council supports the South Carolina Forestry Commission, Department of Natural Resources, the Clemson University, the Nature Conservancy, the South Carolina Prescribed Fire Council, and others as they strive to provide educational and technical assistance. And be it finally resolved that the Kershaw County Council urges air quality regulators to work closely with all state agencies and landowners in a fair and balanced approach to smoke management. Mr. Bozard, can we have a motion, please?
Yes, please. I make the motion that we adopt this resolution.
And can we have a second?
Second.
Who is
Second.
that? Mr. Snodgrass? Discussion. Al, you want to lead off?
Yes, please. Thank you. Clemson and his people from the Forestry Service came down to our last meeting and gave us a briefing on it. At that time, there was 20 other counties that already adopted this. But I want to point out one thing. There's a requirement that everybody that goes burns has to call the Forestry Service and get permission to burn. And they will advise you at that time the wind conditions and so forth, and whether it's recommended that you burn or not burn. But this resolution is going to back up what I just said, and the fact that you might be in some deep trouble if you get out there and get caught burning and you don't have a permit and you get in trouble with it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, on page 10 in your electronic books is the outdoor burning title and chapter, notification and precautions. Thank you, Al. Other comments?
Question.
Yeah, Mr.
You're
Jones.
referring to permits. I thought it was just a call number you get.
That's still a permit. That's what.
Oh, okay, I'm clear.
That's what they're
Okay.
calling a permit.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments? All right, I think we're ready to go to a vote. I'm a prescribed burn person myself. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Mary. We move to the next item on the agenda, which is a proclamation recognizing November as National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. We'll follow the same protocol, and thank you, Mr. Snodgrass, for bringing this forward. Whereas the purpose of this resolution is to educate the public and to encourage citizens to recognize that many individuals and families in Kershaw County do not have permanent housing and food security and need support from fellow citizens, churches, and private and public nonprofit service entities. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering, providing supportive services, as well as meals and supplemental food, and there still exists major barriers to stability, such as lack of affordable housing and public transportation to jobs and health care. Whereas the County Council recognizes that hunger and homelessness have a negative impact on the physical and mental health of many children and adults in our county and encourages everyone to help as they're able. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Kershaw County Council hereby proclaims November 15 through 22 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. And I thank Ms. Darlene Thomas and Michelle Dowland from coming today. Are they here today? Oh, good. Thank you. Good to have you. With that, let's make a motion. Mr. Snodgrass, would you do the honors?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, I move that we move and adopt this resolution, or proclamation, excuse me.
Very good. A second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozard. With that, let's move into discussion, and it's on the table. Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of council, just want to say thank you to Darlene and Michelle, Darlene from Food for the Soul and Michelle from New Day on Mill, as they represent a larger group of our nonprofits in our community. And I don't know if we realize this, but we are blessed in Kershaw County to have such a community that is centered around a loving spirit, a spirit of doing unto others as we would have done to us. And we see that in the various organizations that are a part of this community. So thank you. I know Food for the Soul is it's our shelter here for the county, as well as a place where people can go and find a hot meal. And then, of course, New Day on Mill, thank you so much for providing a safe place for families as they transition. So it's a neat picture of seeing this private-public partnership to ensure that the marginalized in our community have some sort of safety net that they can rely on. Thank you.
Other comments, Mr. Bozard?
No, none. Thank you.
All right, very good. Others?
I do.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, Food for the Soul, New Day on Mill. I have so much respect for you guys. You know, I have actually sent people to both agencies, and the way y'all have responded, the reputation that you have, we're very blessed to have you folks here and the time that y'all put into this as well. I just want to say thank you.
Others? Mr. Tucker.
Yes, same ditto, Miss Michelle and Miss Darlene. Thank you for what all you do. You know, everybody has a passion and a drive for something dear and near to their heart, and I can tell from the work that you produce for the citizens here in Kershaw County that this is your passion and your drive, and I thank you for what all you do.
Very good. Other comments? I myself have been able to refer someone to the Food for the Soul for temporary housing, and I'm particularly mindful that during emergencies, that's one of our alternate sites, and it's just amazing. The superstructure that exists because of the kind heart of our council. Everywhere you see it. And I'm very glad y'all could be here tonight. Thank you. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Mary, it passes unanimously. Ma'am, would y'all both come up here so we can get a picture? Danny, if you can do the honors. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, thank you all very much. Boy, we got great people in this county. Wow. All right, we move now to the agenda, item number D. It's on page 12, which is the October 13th meeting. I believe Mr. Tucker was absent for that one.
Yes, sir, I will be
Can we have a
abstaining.
motion to approve the minutes?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, a second.
Second.
Mr. Gardner, any discussion?
I will be abstaining, Mr.
And Mr. Tucker will abstain. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Waiting on Mr. Jones. Yeah, we're unanimous, except for Mr. Tucker abstaining. Thank you very much. We now move to the October 27th call meeting. It's at Annex E. It was a single topic, item page 21 in your books. I believe Mr. Jones was absent for that. Can we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So
Make a
made.
motion to approve.
Mr. Tucker, a second from Mr. Bozard. Discussion. Just to review the
I
topic.
abstain.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jones. Just to remove the topic, it's a second reading of the millage that we will consider a little later on in this meeting. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous with Mr. Jones abstaining. Thank you very much. We move now to a series of updates, administrative updates. Item number 1, which is the one we need to hear but would rather not hear, but it's about the COVID update. Mr. Carpenter, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, I have just 3 brief updates regarding the current situation. The 14-day average, which is what we generally use to get an idea of whether we're coming or going. Right now, we seem to be going as we've started ticking upwards. Again, over the last 14 days, you can see as the chart shows. Moving on to the next one, which is the total number reported in the average daily in the county. 1/3 of the way through the month of November, and we're better than we were last month. But with 2/3 of the month to go, we're well ahead of most other months this year so far. The final is just the total number that have been reported in Kershaw County month to date. Again, 1/3 of the way through, and we're on track to be equal to the summer of about 360 on average. That is not where we want to be. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be done with this virus outbreak yet. And that's my update on COVID. The final report, of course, shows the mortality in the county as well. And again, after being early in the summer, before the summer hit, we were kind of plateaued, but we have been going up rather steeply the last month or so for mortality rate. That is the COVID update, sir.
Comments, gentlemen? If you look at the steepness of that curve, it's a small sample size, but one person is too many. And we had 4 in the last week, and it continues to accelerate for some reason. Did you have the data, Vic, on the average age, youngest and oldest? You and I discussed that last time.
I'm sorry, I do have it, but I don't have it with me. I'll have to send it.
Yeah, the average was 72.1 years. So it's clearly going after the elderly. Guys, and just so you know, I'm older than that. Mr. Jones, you're close to that, right? And then the second thing is that the youngest, I think, was 27. And he was tragically found in his apartment and couldn't be revived. And then we've had a number of incidents in some of our nursing homes. And as chairman, I should tell you, I called the chief of staff at DHEC and complained on a couple of points. And I will report to you what I get back when I get it back. But the number of deaths has been of a great concern in the last 2 weeks. Mr. Jones, did I see your hand up?
I did. I wanted to just get some clarification. What's the recovery rate?
I don't,
92%.
I heard it was 97.7
Yeah,
yes,
recovery
sir,
rate.
it's going to be in that range, yes, sir.
yeah.
So it's got a strong, and plus, we should have a vaccine on the horizon, they say.
God willing, that's what they're telling
So
us.
things are looking good on that part.
One would hope, yes, sir, it sounds that way.
Okay, thank you.
If I can steal that point Mr. Jones very helpfully raised, I have been, as you know, in some of my contacts with the Army, and the general who's running the distribution of warp speed is the finest four-star serving today. And he had been appointed by Mr. Trump to run the distribution. And so that's helpful news indeed. Second thing is it's of no use if people don't take the shots. And I know we're afraid of needles and don't believe we've ever had flu and all that sort of thing. But I've talked to Sue Sugar, who is the CEO of our hospital, and she asked me to encourage everyone listening to wear the mask, wash their hands, socially distance, and when the shots are available, to include the flu shot, take it. Take it. And we shall see, I think, some great results. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for raising that. Appreciate it. Other comments?
Yeah, I have one other one.
Yeah, yes, sir, please.
I know we talk about 6 feet distancing, but yet we don't do it up here. I mean, we're all sitting pretty much on top of each other here.
Okay. And from time to
But
time.
we make the public do it.
Yeah, that we make the public do it. That's correct. And this is pretty
Thank you.
close.
Elections is over. I thought this thing would be going away.
Yeah, I wish. And those 4 dead people would like to also say the same thing. And it's that myth, I think, is evaporated, thankfully. But let's, like we say, Mr. Jones and Mr. Bozard have said, there's some hope, and let's seize on that. We're not going to be cowed as a county. We will address this with courage and with the tools at our hand. Other comments? Very helpful briefing, Mr. Carpenter. I thank you and Lauren for the public affairs campaign that you run. It's really very effective. Thank you. All right, we move to the next item, on item number 2, which is an update on wastewater projects. Mr. Carpenter.
I don't need to update you on the wastewater products. I think you know what. There are several projects, as you know, going on with our wastewater system, one of which we'll be discussing later is a bid. I start with just an update of Highway 1 sewer repairs. As you know, our Highway 1 system is an existing sewer line, approximately 40 years old. About 2 years ago, the section you see on the blue to your left collapsed, and we had to repair it. Unfortunately, the section that you see in yellow and red suffered some also collapse in the last few months. So the yellow section has already been repaired. The section in red we begin to repair this week as well. Again, these were old, going back 40 years. Similar failures occurred about 400 feet, like I said, in 2017. We're currently placing 800 feet. Sewer flow, however, continues. We've not been affected with the flow of the sewer. We've completed approximately 560 feet, and the replacement of the remaining 160 feet will be beginning this week. So that's an update on that. That was an emergency repair that had to be done for obvious reasons. Moving on into the what we call the Southern Loop. The Southern Loop Division 1 that we'll be voting on later is part of the overall master plan. What it does is it connects from our existing pump station at Doby's Mill, upgrading that station, creating a force main that runs along Highway 12 to the Judy lift station. So this is Division 1. And Division 1 is, again, it's installing a new 12-inch force main that'll be running north, and it'll temporarily discharge into the existing Judy lift station. This project has received a DHEC sewer permits. It has been bid. The bids have been received. We'll discuss them later on in the agenda. The stormwater permit should be approved this month. The wetlands permit should be approved this month. Still working on getting the final easements and about a 6-month construction schedule to finish that. Division 2, which is the other part of it, will then take it up to the sewer itself into the pump station as well. Then what you see right here, one of the issues that we have been dealing with for quite a while, and several of you have shared with me your concerns, which is the odor. And this is the odor that we receive in that section of what we call the Elgin 1 station from the high school on towards the town of Elgin. We have come up with a workaround. This is essentially the creation of a new force main that will go from Elgin 1. Currently, Elgin 1 discharges to a gravity line that's on the campus of Lugoff Elgin High School. The odor complaints that we receive is on that, as well as Starcliff subdivision. Currently, parts of those lines are at the maximum flow, and in some cases, it is not able to put any more into it, which backs up and results in odor that we've dealt with. This new force main will discharge into existing gravity that's near the 25-Mile Creek trunk line. We've begun the surveying and preliminary design for this right here. The permit applications are being submitted to DHEC this month. We're still working on easements. We would anticipate advertising for bids at the end of this month, with construction being completed by June 2021. As you know, we've been dealing with odor for several years on this, and we've tried to upgrade the pump stations. We've tried to increase chemicals. But at the end of the day, it's the system itself that had failed, in the sense that it was not able to move the sewage at a rate that would allow the odor to dissipate. So we've come up with a workaround that will eliminate the sewer running through the campus of Lugoff Elgin High School and put a new system in that runs around it that'll be sized appropriately to handle the waste that is coming out of it, and should significantly, if not totally, reduce or eliminate the odor that we've been smelling in that area. Are there any questions?
Comments? Mr.
Comments,
Bozard.
please. I got a call Sunday night about 4 weeks ago, and there's a bad smell out there, and I called Vic, and he sent some people out to take care of it. Well, about 5 days later, I got another call. The smell's back out there again, and Vic tells me that we got some problems out there, and he said, I asked him, what can we do about it? He said, well, it might cost some money. I said, well, if it's going to cost some money, let's put it on the table and let everybody know about it. But the main thing I'm talking about right now is let the citizens know about it, that we are doing something with the smell out there. We're trying to get this thing rectified as fast as we can, and just bear with us. And I thank you, Vic. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Mr. Jones?
I probably received more calls on it than anybody, and Mr. Carpenter, I just want to say thank you for looking into this. And let's try to, instead of do a Band-Aid, let's try to get to the root of the problem, because, you know, when you have a football game, that's the heart of our community over there. And when you have a football game and they're smelling this sewage, it's just not good. And then you got residents, as you said, just sort of repeating, but in those subdivisions, they call on a regular basis because there's that horrible odor on a regular basis. And I realize that a lot of that you inherited. It's been here for a while, but I appreciate you sort of taking the front run on it. Let's get something done. I appreciate that.
Other comments? Mr. Tucker, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Just have a quick question, Vic. With some of the concerns you may have, you're comfortable with what we got in place right now while we take the next 7-8 months to build this line in order to service the school and the residents up in that area?
I am, Mr. Tucker. I mean, I can't guarantee you that, you know, bad things don't happen.
Right.
But with the staff we have and with our knowledge of the system, it'll make it till then. I won't tell you that we won't have bad days where it smells.
Right.
And we'll dispatch people out there to do what we can. Hopefully it's just something we can put some more chemicals in and get rid of it. But this should be a solution that makes it go away, because what it turns out to is, regardless of how big of the pumps we were building, this stretch of line we'll be replacing was inadequate to move the sewage. And so we could keep pumping more in, but it just wasn't moving it through the system itself. Right. And the system is old. As you see in US 1, it's deteriorating and collapsing. And so putting in a new force main through, it'll go down Richardson, then 34, then cut over to pick back up. And plus it'll take out what has been an annoyance, as Mr. Jones well knows, at the high school. Right. For years. They have put up with it, and I can't tell you why in the years past it was decided to run a sewer line through the middle of a high school, but we did. And so this eliminates that totally.
Right.
So I think I'm pretty comfortable with it as a good solution.
Thank you,
Let me
sir.
add a little bit. Is any of this episodic in the sense that we've had more people staying at home during this last several months, and that's driven up the day-to-day usage of this?
Sure, and that is part of it, is people are staying at home. There are more usage of the system, more people, especially when school wasn't in session. The system was designed with an average flow estimated per day. And so when that goes up, then the sewer system has to deal with that. So it's pumping more through the system than would normally have been occurring.
Yeah, I've asked you an unknowable question, but it does seem common sense that with COVID stay-at-home stuff, that has added to a little bit of our burden. Mr. Bozard, you had your hand up there.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy, go ahead.
Ben, go ahead. He hasn't gone.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you,
Ben?
Mr. Chairman. Regarding the emergency situation on Highway 1, Mr. Carpenter, is it a contractor that's doing the work or some public works or a mix?
It's a contractor.
And is that just a fixed fee contract or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bozard?
Yes, thank you. I know we sent your people out to put some stuff in it and knock the smell down. The long-term fix on this, as he mentioned, don't want a Band-Aid on it. The long-term fix is going to take how long?
The
And
long-term,
is the money available to do it already, or we got to take some more money out and something to do it?
no, sir, the money's available for this fix. The money's already in the budget. We already have funds in the budget that are handling these projects. The long-term solution is the southern loop, where that allows us to distribute a significant part of the flow on the south side and move it up into the large system versus pumping everything we have through the one set of pipes. So the long-term solution is the southern loop, of which phase 1 is being bid tonight, and then phase 2 will complete it. That's the long-term solution that gets us, for the next however many years, 5, 10 plus years.
We've already activated that new 12-inch line, right?
Which 12-inch line?
The one going down by 20.
No, sir, that's what we're bidding tonight. Once council approves that, then they'll start construction of that. That'll be completed in 2021 is when that's completed. So that's phase 1 of the southern loop, and that's scheduled to be completed in, let's see what my date was. What date is that, Russ? June. Okay, in June of 2021, phase 1 of the 12-inch on 12 will be completed.
It'll be activated in June of 21.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Jimmy, I've been deferring you. Go ahead.
Very quickly, I haven't seen any difference, and sort of a point of interest with what we were talking about with COVID, I haven't seen a difference with the increase or decrease of the sewage smell with or without COVID, because I've been getting complaints on it for 15 years. I haven't always liked everybody who was working here, and I didn't think they were doing what they were supposed to do. But I tell you what, I think we're very fortunate to have Russ. I think he does a great job, and also the engineers that we contract with and work with. And but I just wanted to sort of make that for the record. This has been going on for a long time. It didn't just start. It predates you as well. Thank you.
Other comments? Well, that was very helpful discussion. And it looks like we got a plan, and we're reacting to reality as it breaks in on us. With that, let's close that off and go to a series of ordinances. Item number 1 on page 22 in your electronic book is also tab F. It's on the screen as an extension of the emergency ordinance under which we're operating to establish safety measures and the like. Mr. Carpenter and Mr. DeBose, can you introduce the topic, and we'll move into this.
Mr. Chairman, Kershaw County Council has previously implemented a series of ordinances that authorize the existence of a state of emergency in regards to the COVID disease. As the other ordinances, it allows us to act in a fashion that allows for, among other things, e-meetings and budgetary flexibility as needed. This is merely an extension of the previous ordinances, and there's no changes to them other than the date for the extension of another 60 days.
Okay, can we have a motion to put it on the table?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Tucker. Discussion. I do ask for clarification before discussion. Is this one, if enacted by a vote of the council, would extend us till what date, Mr. Carpenter?
60 days from tonight.
which would be, let me do my math, about the 10th of
January.
January. And is that in time for us? Yep, I think it is. We can, and so if we need, we can vote on it again then. Mr. DeBose, just a quick decision here, opinion that says we'll act on this, but we need the governor top cover, and so he must extend his as well.
Yeah, I think the governor has extended the state of emergency. He's modified it, but it's still been extended.
Yeah, okay, so this goes through the 10th of January. We'll meet again to decide whether to revoke or continue. And we'll keep mindful of what the governor's doing. And like Mr. Jones said, if we get a vaccine, we might be able to celebrate at some point. Other discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
You mind yielding, Mr. Jones?
No, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to point out, though, our first meeting in January is not till the 12th.
That's right.
So be careful of that, okay?
We'll have 2 days when
Right.
we're not covered.
Okay, just want to make that point.
All right, thank you. Others?
Yes.
Please, sir.
Mr. Carpenter or Mr. DeBose, can you tell me the difference for the record between what the governor's done and what we're doing here?
I'll defer to the attorney on that one.
Well, the governor declared a state of emergency. This ordinance is where Kershaw County declares a state of emergency, and it's based on the number of cases which Mr. Carpenter just outlined and the number of deaths. That's what ours is primarily based on. But he has declared a state of emergency, and in fact, the governor has emphatically indicated that local governments have a right to impose their own restrictions. He has articulated that the state has not preempted the field on numerous occasions. So the question is, has he preempted the field? And the answer to that is emphatically no, but in fact, they still have a state of emergency. So Kershaw County declares a state of emergency in this ordinance, which Kershaw County is entitled to do.
The difference?
The difference of what the governor did and what we're doing?
Yeah.
Well, the governor applies statewide to number of people that can gather, number of people that can go in restaurants. There's a laundry list of things. This just allows Mr. Carpenter to react to the state of emergency by coordination, which he's already indicated. It also allows the chairman to schedule meetings, which he can do anyway. And it also, those are the two primary things it does, is allow the staff to react to the state of emergency as necessary. But it doesn't impose any restrictions. It allows you to have virtual meetings. It allows you to have virtual comments. It allows people to write comments virtually. That's what it primarily does.
But I guess my question is, we have a state of emergency, and I guess, and I have read through it and I understand what you just said, but we can do those things anyway, can't we? I mean, we have the authority to do them without an ordinance, a state of the emergency ordinance.
No, we haven't enacted any general ordinance that allows you to have virtual meetings and allows people to attend virtually and allows the public to.
So you're stating we need the ordinance, you feel,
for
for
those
that?
reasons, absolutely.
And that's, okay.
Yes.
Good question. Thank you. Yes. Other comments? Mr. Tucker has said we'll have 24 hours without an emergency ordinance, which will be Sunday, and it will be on Monday, and then the next day we meet, and it'll be one of the first items. So that's a 24-hour risk that I'm prepared to take. I don't think I want to have a call meeting for 24 hours worth of emergency conditions. Mr. Jones.
Just very quickly, how many meetings have you called virtually since we've had this ordinance?
Well, Mr. Tucker called in the last meeting virtually. So we've had several times. Mr. Gardner has participated virtually as well.
Mr. Bozart, he's done it.
And we probably could, like when we set our rules of order, how we do business at the first year, we could probably just go ahead and add that in at that point in time. So it's a part of our normal business that if anybody on council, cannot make it for any reason that they could come in virtually, could we not?
That's correct.
And that wouldn't take an emergency ordinance. That would be something we could just put in our rules of order for business during the year, which I think might be a good way to look at it as well.
Yeah, Mr. Snodgrass.
Doesn't this ordinance also give you as administrator a little bit more flexibility to respond financially, to move
It does.
discretionary monies around?
Yes, it allows me to react as needed and then just notify the council. I already have the ability to spend emergency funds.
Correct.
As part of my normal purview. This does allow us to respond as needed, if something comes up that we have to, yes, sir.
Off the top of your head, which of the many aspects of the ordinance that gives you flexibility, which one have we utilized the most, do you think?
Probably the virtual meetings.
The virtual meetings, okay.
ma'am.
So which is to Mr. Jones's point, that's probably worth looking at as just standard rules.
There's a,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm done, thank you.
Yeah, please, Mr. Connell.
I'd yield to Mr. Tucker.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of organizations and other government bodies that are looking into their regular, normal policies and rules of operation, Mr. Jones, that are adopting some of this virtual Zoom stuff because it just makes sense moving forward. So we can put it on the table.
Yeah, good idea. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Connell.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about whether or not it should be incorporated generally to be able to attend virtually. And I think there's a particular level of value when it, under normal circumstances, in having to look folks who are making public comments in the eye, the folks who are sitting in the gallery in the eye. If you're going to vote on a regulation that would restrict their freedom in some way or increase or affect their taxes or have fees, I just think there's a value in having to look at people face to face when you do that. So that would be a point I'd raise if it comes up in the new year.
All right, Mr. Snodgrass.
I would just say, I agree with Mr. Connell's point, and that's what, I mean, even if we had the ability to do it, I would still show up here at 515 Walnut Street and do what I've been elected to do. So that's probably a political question as far as someone who would choose to often attend virtually and whether or not the voters would appreciate that or not. But so I agree with what he's saying.
Boy, it's a fruitful discussion. I'm ready to call the question. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, Mr. Bozard, Mr. Connell, and those opposed would be Mr. Jones. Thank you very much. With that, we move to item number 2. Under ordinances, the third reading of an ordinance setting the millage rate. It's at Annex G in your books, and page 21, I think. Yep. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce this, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, is required by the Constitution of South Carolina, we must set the millage that generates the necessary revenue to fund the budget. The budget was previously approved by County Council in June of this year. The millage rate that is in front of you, that has been previously approved on 2 votes in a public hearing earlier tonight, has no changes to the existing millage, no increase of taxes.
Okay, very good. Can we have a motion to introduce this, please?
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve third reading of setting our millage for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Mr. Connell, any discussion? Mr. Tucker, you want to kick it off?
I just want to once again thank the administrator and Ms. Brown and staff for just during these times of just unknowns and uncertainties, guiding us correctly. You know, we don't do this for a living. I mean, Tom's got an accounting degree, but without our staff being smart and able to navigate these waters, we could be in a bad place right now, like some counties of South Carolina and, of course, of the nation are. But instead, our sail is full-blown, and we're moving in the right direction. So I just want to say thanks.
Yeah. And just looking at what I see on the chart here, there is no change in fees or millage or taxes. Mr. Carpenter, can you brief us on what the next step is for the auditor and the treasurer on getting the notices out, please?
Upon approval tonight, on Thursday, the tax notices will be mailed to our citizens.
Very good. And just review for the citizens again why we delayed to this point when we normally would have had all this done sooner. Would you just talk about that, please?
With the unknown and the uncertainties related to our budget, the budget process was different this year. We essentially passed a budget that was last year's budget carried forward with just those necessary modifications for expenses that are beyond our control that went up. So normally we would have approved the millage at the same time, but we needed to reserve that ability in case things changed and the budget had to be modified. It did not need to be modified, so council's approving it tonight.
And under the emergency rules that we have, you've taken some risk in hiring people and so on because of uncertainty about funds. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And would you recite again what we asked for in funds from the CARES Act from the governor that we've not yet received?
We have submitted for reimbursement approximately $1.4 million of expenses that we have expended as a result of COVID.
Because of those expenses, we have not received reimbursement for $1.4 million. And then, again, Sandra, well done on the audit in the face of such overwhelming uncertainty. Other comments, please? Seeing there is none, we can move to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns. It looks like it's unanimous, and it passes unanimously, Mary. Good job. Amazing. We now move to the next item of new business, item number 1, Southern Loop Sewer Improvements. It's at tab H. Kindly get it on the screen. There it is. And it's item number 22 in your electronic book. Mr. Carpenter, can you introduce it, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, have in front of you tonight for approval the awarding of the bid for Division 1 of the Southern Loop project, as we previously discussed. The bids received, the low bid is $1,849,266.77 to McLaurin and Associates of Little Mountain, South Carolina. Staff has reviewed these bids and is comfortable that the low bid is adequate to do the job and requests your approval of these bids tonight.
Very good. And at page 23 is the same map you saw during the briefing about sewer improvements. If you want to look back there, guys, there it is. But can you put back up there, please, the high and low bids? There you go. Very good. Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion we approve, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, what's up, Russ? Will that materially affect the motion for the high and low bid?
It does. The low bidder incorrectly tallied.
All right, let's,
Let me just make sure.
I'll tell you what.
I can't hear you.
Well, I'm sorry. I may have misspoken. Let's make sure it's.
Will it affect Mr. Carpenter's recommendation?
It does by a whopping $400. It's $1,849,666.77.
All right, Mr. Carpenter, why don't you guys sort this out? Tell me what we're doing here.
All right, we're still awarding the bid to McLaurin and Associates of Little Mountain, South Carolina, for a total of $1,849,666.77.
All right, can we have a motion?
Yes, sir. Make the motion that we award this bid to McLean and Associates from Little Mountain for the amount of $1,849,666.77.
And we have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bozard. Mr. Carpenter, you want to take us through what just happened and explain, then we'll have some further discussion by council.
In preparing for the documents that were submitted in the packet, there's a Scrivener's error, as Mr. DeBose likes to call them, but we just incorrectly put down the number off by $400.
But which one?
For the McLaurin and Associates, the low bid.
I
We just
see.
wrote it down incorrectly by $400.
$400.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we'd appreciate it if you know something before coming in here next time, that we not have this confusion, okay, young man? Thank you very much.
Chairman,
Mr. Bozard,
let
thank you.
him state the amount we're talking about.
Okay.
State the amount of money we're talking about.
$1,849,000, $666.77.
That's what's in my motion.
And that's still the low bid.
Right.
Still the low bid, yes, sir.
Everybody
Same
clear
company.
on that? All right, so it doesn't materially change the low bid recommendation. It just corrects a Scrivener's error, and there's a way to do that, and we'll talk about that after this council meeting. Mary knows how to do that stuff. All right. Other discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Bozard, and then I'll get Mr. Connell.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes, sir.
the power to run this thing, electrical there, is that coming off of Fairfield's electric power lines?
The pump stations will draw the power from wherever they're located. So yes, sir, one of them is definitely Fairfield. The Judy station, Russ, do you know, is that Fairfield or is that Duke?
I think that is Fairfield, but my next question is this: where's backup for that power?
They have generators. Generators installed. in the pump
Generators
station.
already in place?
Yes, sir. And the new stations will have generators. That
So
are
we're
sufficient.
using the generators that's already in place. There'll be no new generators.
Come on up, please, and introduce yourself too, please.
I'm Preston Watson with Davis and Floyd. We're the engineers on the project.
Preston did not recognize you with the mask.
The Dobie's Mill Pump Station currently has a generator plug, does not have a generator on site. So we're upgrading that pump station and adding an on-site backup engine pump. So it's actually a backup pump that will automatically cut on and run by fuel, not electrical. And then Judy is an existing pump station as well. That station has an electrical generator connection, and it will remain that way.
My question is this, though: what we're voting on tonight does not need backup generators. Is that what you tell me? They're already in place.
No, sir. What you're voting on tonight is the upgrade of the Dobie Mill Pump Station, including an upgrade in its size from 320 gallons a minute to 900 gallons a minute, and the installation of a backup pump, in effect, backup generator, but it's a backup pump. So you're adding a backup pump.
I still don't think I've heard my answer to my question.
There is no fixed generator at the existing Dobie Mills pump station.
Do we need one?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was
I'm
getting
sorry.
at. So it's not in this budget?
It is in this project.
We're adding a generator to Dobie's Mill, yes, sir. The other one we have.
And in this price right here?
Yes, sir.
Further questions? Mr. Connell?
Mr. Carpenter, as it sits now, we don't have a local preference for contractors to bid, do we, in Kershaw County?
We do have local preference in them based on the size of the bid, up to a certain amount, this amount wouldn't include a preference for it.
Well, that's what I meant. What is the threshold?
Sandra, do you recall what the threshold is? Sarah manages all that. I'll get it for you.
Yeah, please let me know. And the reason I ask is you've got local businesses that are bidding, and our instinct is often to go with the low bid, but sometimes we have found ourselves in trouble in the past when we go with the low bid if someone has a history that has led to repairs required or the punch list doesn't get done. Do we know enough about the low bid on this particular project to have confidence in recommending it and they don't have any kind of negative history?
We have not had any negative history with the company, and because if we did, we would not have awarded the bid if they had negative issues with us.
Have we ever used them before?
Not to my knowledge.
So
no,
we
sir.
have no history with the
Right.
company?
Correct.
Well,
Yes, sir.
that's just something I know it's come up a couple times in council talking about after a bid's been accepted and someone's doing the work, and you always hear, you go over a bridge and like, oh, that was the low bid in particular areas. And I just want to make sure that, we're getting the best value for the citizens if they're paying significant dollars for big projects. You're better off to pay a couple $100,000 more to save yourself $400,000 in the future if you're going to have to pay more because the work's shoddy. And I'm not making any statements about this company. I don't know anything about them. But I remember that being a topic where we wanted to investigate and make sure that they had solid histories. And I'm not sure how you verify that. There's probably some type of Better Business Bureau or something for large industrial contractors doing sewer projects.
Ms. Williams normally goes to the references. Of course, she's not able to be here because of her health, but she normally goes through references that are provided as part of her process of forwarding this, but I can get that all for you, sir. We'll
Okay.
provide that to you.
Yeah, that and the
Preference.
local preference
Yes, sir.
threshold. Thank you.
Do that.
Yeah, I'd provide it to everybody. That'd be very helpful, just as a reminder. Other comments? Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. That question was asked over here by our colleagues, Councilman Snodgrass, and I used 10%, which know the number's not that high, and they still didn't, the local company still didn't meet that threshold. If you take the math and do it, and then Councilman Gardner just used 4%, and it still didn't close the gap. So
I believe our preference is 3%, but I don't have that in front of me to confirm it. 4% now? Okay.
Yeah, you can.
4%.
he ought to know.
It's 4%. It's 4.
4%.
Yeah, but let's just get a written
Yes, sir.
document on that. Helpful? Good, good. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of County Council. With local preference, with the wrong figure being on the agenda, could we maybe not wait 24, 48 hours, have a special call meeting so we can sit down and talk about why the numbers were wrong and some of these other questions that we have that we need answered instead of moving forward tonight under these conditions?
I mean, it certainly is council.
I'd
Yes,
be
sir.
more comfortable in doing that because it seems that there's been certainly been some confusion up here. And I want this done as quick as anybody else because I'll probably get more complaints on it than anybody else. But bottom line is I'm just concerned about some of the confusion that we've had here tonight about the bid, the money.
That'd be council's
that'd be-
preference, sir.
Okay, so I guess I could put that in form of an amendment, Mr. DeBose?
Yes, you could, but the variation is 0.02%.
Which,
And it did not materially change the recommendation, Mr.
Correct.
Jones.
It does not materially change the bid, and the Scrivener's error is 0.00002.
but it's still dollars, it's still money.
It is money, but it won't change the result.
I understand. But it's
But council can delay it if they want to, yes.
not a matter of delaying, it's just a matter of putting it off for maybe 48 hours, notifying the public, through the media, and let us sit down with Mr. Carpenter and figure out what's going on, why the numbers exactly, instead of just Scribbler's mistake, why the numbers were wrong.
I think we can do that right here. Let's figure it out. Why was the number wrong?
Typo.
It was a Scrivener's error, right?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I do it too. Somebody hit 2 instead of 6 is what it sounds like. I've done that on occasion. I'm one of the ones who had some questions tonight. I'm fine with going forward with the bid. Seems like we understand and have roughly come to a meeting of the minds. But what I'm taking from this is maybe we should investigate in the future. It doesn't apply right now, but maybe we should investigate in the future, expanding the threshold for the local preference and trying to understand why it's set at a lower amount. I just don't know at this point why they voted on that back when.
I can tell you, if you want, I can tell you the answer that I was given is that if you set that preference too high, then you have people that don't bid because local people, and then you get bids that aren't competitive. So your costs rise because
You
of
lose
that.
some of the talent
So,
pool.
You lose, you lose
And
your
it's
talent
4%, as it explained to me, that, and that 4% being to answer your question based on the one from Lugoff at 2.077, the 4% is 1.923, so they're still $150,000 short of falling in there at the 4%. So,
Yeah, way off.
so
Yeah.
it wouldn't get you there. I understand, and I'm very much in favor of using local business. I think it's very much when we're using taxpayer dollars that we should keep that money in Kershaw County because the folks that do this have millions of dollars of equipment that they pay taxes on, and I'm very much in favor of keeping that money here for those people. But and I would even vote to move that 4% even higher. I bid obviously with the rec department, things like that. So I'm very much in favor of keeping tax dollars in Kershaw County. So I would entertain changing that to a higher rate if anybody else would be.
I agree with you.
So, and even if we scaled it up to as much as a 10%, and we can put a range in there that 10% would apply from, $0 to $50,000, and then from 50 to 100, it could be 8%, and over 100 to 250 could be 6%. I think we can scale it if you want to do that, but I'm very much in accord with keeping tax dollars here. And so if we want to pursue that later, I'm very much in favor of that, but I don't think it affects this bid. So I'm very much ready to move forward with this.
Mr. Bozar?
Yes, I want to caution everybody, you get this percentage too high, over 4, you're not going to get people bidding on it.
People will not bid.
I came from this background, and I can tell you right now, you get it up too high, you ain't going to get nobody bidding.
Yeah, and I live in this background.
The main thing is, Mr. Carpenter, you with the engineers and your people, y'all feel comfortable with this man. He's met all the requirements that we asked of him, right?
Yes, sir.
We got no problem with him. We've looked at his background, we've looked at his last 3 jobs and so forth, right?
I'd have to ask Ms. Williams, how much she went into it, but we require they provide background to us. They've got to meet insurance, they've got to meet bonding. So
In that background, though, don't you require his last 3 jobs to look at?
I believe we do.
They generally do require some of their past history. I do know that McClam and Associates has been around for quite some time. I mean, we've worked with McClam and Associates on other projects in the past, so they're not an unknown entity.
So he's not new to you?
No, sir. No, sir,
Okay.
not at all. Or new to the business either.
Okay, thank you very much. You answered my question. Thank
All
you.
right, I'm about ready to call the question. Mr. Jones, go
I got
ahead.
a question. Preston, Mr., if I may, you're comfortable with this whole process and we can get it done for the money that we have up here? You feel there's not going to be any more surprises to us?
Well, there's always the potential for something different in the field than what we anticipate. But our suggestion is that we proceed with this project like we do all others. We would suggest that in the budgeting, maybe keep a 5% contingency or so for this project, like you may do for all your projects. I'm not aware. But with this bid in particular, we're comfortable with this bid amount for this project as it is.
Well, we've worked together for 15 years. You're a good man. You're a good organization, and I trust you. And on that behalf, I'm going to vote for it tonight.
All right, other comments? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much, and we move now to the next item, which is item number 2, and I'm looking forward to this, update on the dog park. There's no vote required. It's a discussion and an update. Mr. Connell, would you take it from there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council members and to the public, we're just going to take you through some images of what's going on with the local dog park project. For context, the Recreation Commission had been looking at doing a dog park in Kershaw County, first one that we would have ever, and they were seeking, as I recall, somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 or so for land acquisition and upfit of a dog park. But as you've been getting updates over the months, we have land that's been donated to the Play Foundation. If you remember, the Play Foundation did the playground out at the Wastewater complex. They secured donations and ultimately had that out there right next to a county asset. So with the land donation, you're in the neighborhood of 3 acres. And you can see the first slide was actually some of the materials that'll be out there, or apparatus that'll be out there for the agility portion of the dog park. Yeah, next slide, Danny. You can see it's positioned right on Highway 1, so there's a lot of visibility. Those trees that you see on the backside of that lot lined in yellow have all been cleared out, and that lower portion would be a large, probably 3/4 large dog area, and a little bit smaller than that, small dog area. That would be the entrance, which will include, the project overall is going to include fencing that the county doesn't have to pay for, benches, the agility park, that almost triangular portion on the bottom would be the agility area, and then you have a large and small dog area up top. There's going to be water and utilities run down there. It's going to have a donated gate system with a key card so that people will have to apply, and your dog has to meet certain criteria, spayed, neutered, got your shots, not aggressive with biting history at DHEC, that kind of thing. And then Shane and the county staff will be able to track quite readily the usage. And I see we have Mary Emmons here tonight, who's been heavily involved in the Play Foundation. She's been getting updated and participating all throughout the process, as have the staff. I'm just really excited about it because you have such a charitable heart locally with some folks that want to make this happen, and we also don't have to spend $250K or more to obtain this asset. It's just outstanding in my view. The fencing should actually start maybe later this week. It's all marked off. If you have those other pictures, you can faintly see the lines there that mark where the fencing is going to go. That gives you an idea. Right there, The sheriff's exit is there on the back side, so it's right there in the heart of Blue Golf.
That's great. Well, I'm delighted that the Play Foundation is here. Mayor, when you show up, good things happen, to include the KC West Children's Playground. Very good. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Bozard?
Yeah, I got a question. Who's going to maintain this thing after we get it open?
The county will, of course.
Okay.
Ask him how much it's gonna cost us.
I ain't finished yet, I'm thinking.
Al,
Okay, Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Mr. Connell, tell us how much it's going to cost us, the county.
Well, Shane's not here tonight, but I can't project on him, but I think he said that between the River Park, Elgin, and this facility, they had worked in some type of maintenance person that would be a floater between there and other parks.
But the park's going to cost us how much money?
Zero, yeah.
Zero.
$0.
I mean,
Costs us
this
nothing.
is a no-brainer to me,
This is a tremendous thing, Mr. Jones, having
and I am very pleased.
a public partnership being provided to the citizens of the county couldn't be better.
And when I say overall value of the donation that ultimately is being given to the Play Foundation, which I anticipate us having on the agenda sometime in the spring, Mayor, for a donation to County Council to bring before us for a vote, you're probably talking over $300,000 in value between the equipment, the fencing, the clearing, the grading, the utilities, and the land that we don't have to spend any money on. It's outstanding. I'm really, really pleased with it.
I appreciate the work you put into it, Mr. Connell.
Yeah. This is just a heads up, and boy, what a great way to start November. Mr. Tucker?
I was probably not paying attention, so I do that sometime when I'm in the class. What's the finish date or projected completion date?
They're projecting, it was supposed to happen already, but for COVID.
Right.
But for COVID.
Yeah, it was supposed to be in the fall or winter of this year, but we're projecting now the spring of next year.
Okay, cool.
Terrific.
Thank you. And thank you for your work.
no
Anything
problem.
further, Mr. Bozard?
Yeah, how's the work? Is this going to be contracted? The Parks Department going to do it or what?
No, thankfully, the Parks Department, this is such a unique situation, Mr. Bozard. The Parks Department has had quite a bit of say in how donation dollars are being spent. I mean, regular updates, they get to walk out and say, I want the fence over here, I'd like it moved this way. And somebody else, out of the kindness of their heart, is paying to get all this stuff done in accordance with how the county would like for it to be. So they basically get to say how they want the park to be, and we don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, great. Well, no further discussions. Boy, that was very uplifting. Thank you, Play Foundation. Thank you, Ben. The next item is item number 3. There is no tab or no read ahead on this. It's a discussion as listed here as a consideration of employee pay rise. Mr. Bozard, please lead us on.
Yes, we, due to the way everything worked out this year, we did not give the employees a raise. And I've asked Rick, you got your slide ready?
Oh, man.
I've asked Vic to put it up on the screen there, and we've got 4 different options. Wait a minute, excuse me, 5 different options.
4.
4, I'm sorry, I'm
Yes, sir.
right first time. 4 different options on this thing, and I'm gonna let Vic go through it and explain it to us, and then we can talk and look at it. And
Mr. Chairman, members of council, Mr. Bozard came and he asked me just to do the numbers, see what it would cost if we were to do for employees some kind of a mid-budget pay raise. I ran a couple different variables. You see 4 columns, 1%, 2%, 3%, and then one which is just a lump sum $500 bonus. The total cost to the employee, to the county, at the bottom, you would see if you follow through where it'll say there, general fund, then you have your enterprise funds, and then below that, total cost to the county is essentially for the general fund for 1% is $135,000. Then double that for 2% or triple it for 3%. So 135, 270, or 405,000 for such a pay raise. If we were to use a $500 lump sum, it'd be $171,000 to the general fund of the county. It is my thought that we provide this to council for consideration and discussion. Not at this meeting per se discussion, but I would like, if council is interested in this, I would suggest that We wait until January when we know the revenues for the county for property taxes coming in as well.
Now, it's my understanding, and I want to clarify for council members, none of us have seen this chart, and I can't read it from here anyway. So what you're telling us is we can look at it and maybe discuss it at the next time around. And I'll leave it back to you, Mr. Bozard, but this is the first time I've seen it as well.
I'd like for us to discuss it tonight if we got anything, and I'd like for it to come back next month if it's possible and vote on it and give the people something to look at for Christmas.
Well, let me just add to this again. Mr. Carpenter's recommendation is we don't know what our budget line is. I've already made the case about the $1.4 million that we haven't yet received from the state. January would be the earliest time that Mr. Carpenter is recommending it. So what do you say about that, Al?
Well, wait a minute now. When I first talked with you, you said this wouldn't cost us no money out of no budget, no nothing, wouldn't have to go back to the budget. Is
We
that
have,
right?
right. We have within the existing budget, if it comes in as projected, we will have the ability to do so without modifying the budget. What I just said was I would like to make sure the money is coming in as projected before council makes such a decision. Right now, we're still waiting to receive the bulk of our revenue from property taxes in December and January. If it comes in, then we should be fine. But my point is that it hasn't come in yet, so I'd request that we see what comes in for property taxes. January, we'll have a much better idea for the budget and where we're going to end the year in, which would then allow us to go ahead. If it is coming in as projected, then we should be okay doing this because we build enough capacity within the budget to do so.
Well, we really don't know now, have no reason not to believe it won't come in.
I have no reason not to, sir, other than just my general nature in life is that I kind of wait until I know it's happened.
I understand you want to see the money in hand before you spend it.
Yes,
I
sir.
understand.
Well, let me ask you this, though, and we've had that discussion too, Al, is, you know, we crimped our style under the emergency declaration on hires, and we were all very keen about that. So it may be that this needs to have another factor here, the total personnel budget, and how it was impacted by the stricture put on Mr. Carpenter on hires as well. So there are at least two factors here. One, the money. Two, other hires that we might want to do going forward. So my view is let's put it before the council, not sooner than January, with all those factors.
I agree.
Okay. Al, what do you think?
If that's the best we can do, then I'll go along with it. I'd wanted to see it before the end of the year, but if that's the best we can do, then yes.
Yeah. And I'd hate to tantalize people with a possible pay rise when we don't have the means to do it.
Absolutely.
So we need to be clear with our employees about our commitment to them, but that there are other factors bearing on this.
Well, there's a thing in the Bible that says before you build something, you got to have the money to do it with. And
That sounds good to me.
so, yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Al, I will make this commitment to you as we start the new year, that everything that this body and the chairman and the administrator should make recommendations for and approve for any pay rises, I will support it in your name because I appreciate your efforts. I just think with sending out the notices a little later than normal, along with so many unknowns that we've had, that we really, really need to. And I didn't mention the part with the restructuring of what we're doing with staff and departments that Mr. Carpenter sent out to all of us on an update. So there's a lot of moving parts there, but I commend you, and I'll show you, I will stand behind and commit to you what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got some work to do, and we'll see this again in January. Other discussion? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, listen, Mr. Carpenter, thank you for that recommendation because we're supposed to be in the middle of a pandemic. We got hiring freezes on. We don't know what kind of revenue's coming in.
Amen.
And let me just say this. I will absolutely look at this with open eyes come January when we know what's going on. But there's no way we could do anything to try to raise taxes on the citizens at this point in time. That would be the worst thing we could ever do. So thank you so much for your recommendation.
Yeah, that was very well laid out. All right, I think we can move on now. Thank you, Al. Move to council briefings, and it starts with you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say congratulations to all my colleague that's sitting up here, Councilman Cornell, Councilman-elect Mr. Brazel, and also to our new delegation, Mr. Dabney and Mr. Henry, for their victories. And just look forward to a new 2021 and moving off in the right direction. Let me say, too, I stopped by the Recreation Department today and was just inquiring about how did Halloween go. And got some feedback from Shane and staff over there that went well and that they're looking at trying to do a Christmas movie, Mr. Carpenter. So I'm really excited about that. Would like to see that park filled down there at our Veterans Park. But he's going to be getting the information out. Please share with your family and loved ones that may be coming in. You can still do your social distancing because you can be in your cars with your family, with folks that you know are clean, and enjoy a movie. And I think they're in contact with you, Mr. Condell, on trying to set up a little different so it can be more visible without the big SUVs and four-wheel drive trucks blocking people like me with a little car. That's right. With that concludes my report.
Mr. Gardner.
The only thing I have is since our last meeting, I have been blessed with a new granddaughter, and they are doing very well. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Mr. Bozard.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all y'all for listening to me tonight and supporting this pay raise for the people, and hope it comes through in January. And Russ will be voting on it. If he don't, I'm going to come up and fire him. But on the internet, Vic, there's been a lot of publicity of about a 146,000 square foot business on 2 Business Park. Where is that? It's for sale. And some people out of North Carolina is pushing this thing heavy out of Charlotte.
I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but I can find out for you.
Well, it surprised me very much when I saw it on there because I don't know where 2 Business Park is. Does anybody else know where it's at?
Yeah, I'll talk to you about it.
Huh?
I'll talk to you after this.
Well, I wanted it brought up because if this man from Charlotte's pushing this thing for sale, why can't we do the same thing? We got a building sitting over there we need to sell.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You was going to say
Mr.
something, Michael. You can help me out?
Mr. Connell. We're not in discussion here. You got anything further?
Well, he was jumping up to say something. Michael was. That's why I was asking. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another encouraging project locally that didn't require county funds directly and involved repatriation of Kershaw County tax dollars is the park that we've started to work on in Elgin at the Health Campus near Kershaw Health. Over $271,000 the county received from the Park Recreation and Tourism Department with the state. And it just goes to show if you work at something often takes 2-3+ years in my experience so far, you can actually get some of these projects done. That's really encouraging. And also I love to recognize acts of charity and kindness in the community. I think it's the kind of thing we need to hear during these times. And recently, Lugoff Chevrolet donated a 26-foot refrigerated truck to the United Way. It has a lift gate.
Right.
And it's just so encouraging to see that act of charity. The director of the United Way, Mr. Suplee, was saying that they will use that to feed over 600 families for Thanksgiving, and the numbers grow. And the truck that they had currently was about half the size and required multiple trips to go and pick up the food, and sometimes that led to not being able to easily get to the families that were in need. So that's a great act of charity locally, and the hearts are big here in Kershaw County.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ben. Anything further?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Well done. Mr. Jones.
No report.
All right. Mr. Snodgrass.
Members of council, Mr. Chairman, just want to, a couple reminders. We had the Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week proclamation earlier, and just remind people that November 15th to 22nd, that we are collecting supplies, anything from warm coats, stocking caps, blankets, backpacks, cleaning supplies, any things of that nature they're collecting and can be dropped off at 110 East DeKalb Street in Camden. So just want to, for those who may be listening online or who are here with us, to make you aware of that. Want to, along with the discussion that we had about the employee pay rise, just want to let all the employees know of the county just how grateful we are of each and every one of you. I don't think citizens probably don't think about and don't realize how much county employees do to kind of keep the ball rolling, so to speak. And the fact that they don't see you probably is maybe a good thing, because what it means is you're doing your job so well that the machine is just working. And so thank you so much for all that you do. And I want to commend the park staff. The Veterans Park continues to get better and better and better. We've thinned out the trees, and you can, as you cross the bridge, you can see down into the park, which looks really, really neat, as well as if you're in the park, then you can have a clear view into the great watery river. So thank you so much for that. And then just a quick shout out to the football teams of North Central High School and Camden High School, who continue to have just fantastic seasons as they continue to roll on. So all the fall sports teams, keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll close out and we'll move to other briefs. But first of all, I think I foresee in our future a bunch of football teams in here to be recognized after a great year. Volleyball did pretty well too. Don't forget, we just got a great spirit in the county. It's a well-run county, and it's a county with a good heart, as we've heard from each of the members here. Last point, each of you should have in your boxes a letter from the Department of Transportation. Recall that Mr. Carpenter and I met with the Secretary of the Department of Transportation in August, complaining about the delays in Aaron Clow Road, the truck bypass, and the cost overruns, which were dramatic, which impact the other roads, such as Black River Road, that we are fighting for. And we've also complained about the absence of funding for our roads in Wastewater for about 20 years. And with Mayor, you here, you know what I'm talking about. So I want you to take a look at that. I have asked our new delegation, Representative Vic Dabney and Senator Gustafson, to give us a hand. It's a tough problem. We'll work it together as a county because we have a common view of what our citizens need. I want to thank Vic in advance for the recreation and basketball sign up, and I'm looking forward to that. Mr. Carpenter, over to you.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, just a few items tonight. Mr. Connell mentioned about the park in Elgin. Show you some pictures of its construction in progress as Danny flips through a couple of them to just say it's going to be a very nice, attractive park when they're done. You see them building the walkway, the natural trail part of it. Part of it will be paved as well. Keep on going, Danny, and you come to our next thing, which we honored our employees today who are veterans. We gathered them together. There you see a picture of some of those employees. The county provided for them American flags. We provided for them some very nice golf shirts. And we're giving all veteran employees distinctive county employee badges that reflect their service to our country. You got one. That, Mr. Chairman, is my report. Thank you.
All right, Mr. DeVos.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, thank you. That concludes the briefings. I would like to now move to an executive session. Let me hear from you, Mr. Tucker, about that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice concerning the county's legal statutory obligations. No action will be taken as a result of this executive session.
And who do you need in the room with you?
Yes, sir. Thank you for clarifying that. We'd like to have the administrator and our legal counsel, please.
Very good. And no vote to be taken on
No
return.
vote to be taken when we return.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozard. Any further discussion? Will we do it in the stand-up room or up in the big room?
Stand-up room should be fine right
It
here.
should go pretty quick.
All in favor?
All those in favor signify by raising. And it's unanimous, Mary. We are recessed for a short time. Thank you very much. Second, any discussion? Let's wait for Mr. Jones to sit down.
So that was Tom.
No discussion. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Can I entertain now a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second.
Mr. Connell, Mr. Tucker, any discussion? When is our next meeting here? So what date is that? 15th or something? We'll figure that out. Let's go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And y'all have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
December the 8th.
Thank you.
December the 8th is our next meeting? Okay.